Okay, class. So we will start talking once again about the lymphatic vessels. So the lymphatic vessels, remember, they are formed by merging of the lymphatic capillaries. They contain all three tunics, externa, media, and interna. They are associated with valves, as drawn by my yellow squiggly lines in the picture. So they have valves like we see in veins. And these valves actually help prevent pooling of lymph and also prevent backflow of lymph. These valves help to fight gravity, and the valves work by the skeletal muscle pump, exactly what we see in veins. Now, some lymphatic vessels connect directly to lymphatic organs called lymph nodes. Let's take a look. So right here in the picture, we do see an organ called lymph node. So this is an organ. Let me highlight. So this is an organ called lymph node. And lymphatic vessels are connected directly to this organ, as you see. We do see some afferent lymphatic vessels. Do you see these ones are afferent? And the afferent vessels actually carry lymph towards the lymphatic organ. So lymph is coming in to the organ via the afferent vessel. Okay. The efferent lymphatic vessel as shown here carries lymph out of the lymph node into the larger lymphatic vessels. So the efferent one is used for carrying lymph out of the node. And remember, these lymphatic vessels, they actually feed into lymphatic trunks. So moving on to lymphatic trunks. Oh, before talking about the lymphatic trunks, one last thing. Remember that the lymph nodes, these lymph nodes, mostly appear in clusters. Therefore, lymph passes from one node to the next and so on, and constantly gets scanned for the presence of antigens. That's a function of these lymph nodes. They scan, so lymph gets into the lymph node via the afferent vessels. Inside the lymph node, the lymph is scanned for the presence of antigens. And once it's scanned, it moves out of the lymphatic node via the efferent lymphatic vessel and ultimately drained into larger lymphatic vessel called lymphatic trunks. Alright, moving on to lymphatic trunks. Lymphatic trunks are formed by joining lymphatic vessels, and for testing purpose, I would just mention the names of the trunks that you need to know. First, we will start with left and right jugular trunks, and the jugular trunks drain the head and neck region of our body. Next, we have the subclavian trunks, and the right and left subclavian trunks drain the upper limbs, breasts, and our thoracic wall. Then we have left and right bronchomediastinal trunks, which drain the deep thoracic structures. Next, we have the left and right lumbar trunks, which drain the lower limbs, pelvis, and the abdominopelvic wall. And we also have, intestinal trunks. Where did that go? And we also have intestinal trunk, which drains the abdominal structures. Okay, so like intestine and other organs associated with the intestine. So for testing purpose, you must know the names of the trunks. For example, jugular trunk, subclavian trunk, bronchomediastinal trunk, lumbar trunks, and intestinal trunk. And you must know which areas of the body do they drain. So, potential question for your upcoming quiz. Okay. So, the lymphatic trunks joins to form lymphatic ducts, and there are two major or two important lymphatic ducts present. These ducts empty lymph back into the venous circulation. We have a right lymphatic duct as shown here, right lymphatic duct, and then we also have a thoracic duct. The right lymphatic duct receives lymph from lymphatic trunks that drain the right side of the body, as shown by the box here. The thoracic duct is the largest lymphatic duct. I want you to remember that. The thoracic duct is the largest lymphatic duct, and it ultimately drains into the left jugular vein and left subclavian vein, as shown here. Left subclavian vein and left jugular vein. Sorry, left jugular and left subclavian. Okay, so the thoracic duct drains into the subclavian and jugular veins. Now, one thing, class, when you study the lab models for the blood vessels and lymph vessels, there is a picture that shows the torso, the dark color torso, and there where you see the jugular vein and the brachiocephalic vein, right there's a tiny green tube on the left hand side of the torso, and that tiny green tube that you will see is actually the thoracic duct. Alright, moving on. So, moving on to lymphatic cells. Oh, quick thing. I forgot to mention this. Now, let's look at the thoracic duct. This whole big thing is the thoracic duct, right? This structure in green is the thoracic duct. Okay. Now, if you look at the base of the thoracic duct, do you see this pouch-like structure? So, this pouch-like structure is actually anterior to your second lumbar vertebrae, which is L2. And the sac-like structure has a name. It's called cisternae chyli. Now, remember, this cisternae chyli actually gets milky white chyle from the small intestine. And why is the chyle milky white in color? Well, because it's rich in lipids. So the cisternae chyli receives chyle from the intestine. Okay. Moving on to lymphatic cells now. Lymphatic cells are found both in the lymphatic system and cardiovascular system. I want you to understand that. So the lymphatic cells that we will talk about, the macrophages, lymphocytes, and dendritic cells, they are not only found in the lymphatic system, they are also found in blood. And these cells elicit immune response. We will talk about macrophages, dendritic cells, and different types of lymphocytes. Let's talk about macrophages first. Okay, so the macrophages, they come from blood monocytes, and the macrophages are actually, as we remember from our previous lectures, macrophages, they perform phagocytosis. Phagocytosis. What is phagocytosis? Well, eating of cellular debris and other materials. Many of these macrophages may present antigen to other lymphatic cells. Meaning, let's say this is a macrophage, and the macrophage finds something. It finds a foreign something. So the macrophage will pick up the foreign material and will present it to other lymphatic cells, telling it, I found this, do what you want to do with it. Then we have dendritic cells. And the dendritic cells, They are found in lymphatic nodules. Know that. Dendritic cells are found in lymphatic nodules, and they also function as antigen presenting cell of the lymphatic system. What do we mean by antigen presenting cell? Well, let's talk about it. Let's say I am a dendritic cell, right? I am a dendritic cell in our regular classroom, and I am walking around. I find a foreign thing. Let's say I find a foreign backpack, right? So as a dendritic cell, I will pick up that backpack because I don't know what it is and how can it harm us. So I will pick up that backpack and I'll present it to other lymphatic cells and tell it, hey, I found this. If you want to kill it, go ahead and kill it. So those are the functions of dendritic cells. They mainly work as antigen presenting cells. Remember, some macrophages can also have antigen presenting properties. Moving on to the most abundant type of lymphatic cells called lymphocytes. And the lymphocytes can be of different types. There are 3 types of lymphocytes that we will talk about. So let's make a small little chart. Lymphocytes. 3 main types. T lymphocyte, then B lymphocyte, and then we have NK cells or natural killer cells. Okay. The T lymphocytes are also called T cells, the B lymphocytes are also called B cells, and the NK cells also go by natural killer cells. Now the T cells can be of 2 types. We can have helper T lymphocytes, and we can have cytotoxic T lymphocytes. Okay. The B lymphocytes can be of 2 types. We can have plasma cells and memory B lymphocytes, memory cells or memory B lymphocytes. I will stop here and then make another video talking in details about the lymphatic cells or the lymphocytes. Okay, I'll stop here.